Welcome back, guys. This is officially the final video that we're going to be doing for the set release for the Streets of New Capenna. If you guys missed the 5 colors, the introduction, and the color list, those are already posted for you guys up on the YouTube channel. So make sure you guys check them out if you missed them. But Yanks is on the call with us again, and we're going to be doing a 1 to 5 scale on all of the multicolor cards. Sit tight. This is going to be the longest video of the bunch because they are harder to explain and discuss, and typically have a lot more text. So we're going to be here for a few minutes. Let's go ahead.
And there's twice as many of them in any color than any color.
Yeah, sorry, I thought I had mentioned that. So now we're going to go ahead and start with the Avon Heartstabber. It's a fantastic name, I suppose. We have a 2-mana Bird Assassin that is a flying 1/1. As long as there are 5 or more mana value among cards in your graveyard, this gets +2/+2. When it dies, mill 2 cards and then draw a card. That seems pretty fantastic. What do you think, Yanks?
Yeah, my first instinct when I see this card, blue-black for 1/1 flyer that eventually draws a card, is Baleful Strix. Now, this is definitely not Baleful Strix, but it's still a very solid card. It can get bigger, so it can be more of a threat. 3/3 is 5 or more mana values is a bit of a thing. It's gonna blue-black has some self-mill, so I like this.
Yeah, we're seeing a fair amount of black cards specifically that have this 5 different CMC type cards in the graveyard, and it doesn't look like it's going to be too terribly difficult to trigger. So I think this is in the neighborhood of a 3/5.
Yeah, I think so.
Get in some early chip damage. It replaces itself. If you get a pump bonus, all the better for it. Okay, we have one of the cards I'm the most excited for. It's the Black Market Tycoon. We have a 2-mana 2/2 Cat Rogue. At the beginning of your upkeep, Black Market Tycoon deals 2 damage for each treasure you control. You can tap to create a treasure as well. So you can use this to ramp up to fix yourself in these 3-color decks. But then if you build up too much, you take a bunch of damage. But that's okay because we don't necessarily need to build up. There are plenty of things that want us to be sacrificing our treasures pretty regularly. So I like this card a bunch. What do you think, Yanks?
Yeah, this card's good. It's so easy to work around that 2 damage. Just you can just, if the damage is problematic, you can just sacrifice the treasure at the end of the opponent's turn. You know, there's no cost to doing so. You can just throw it away if you're afraid of taking damage.
Yeah, you could just make them when you need them. It does prevent you from just like building them up every turn until you find your big payoff. So like you can't build up an excess of them, but I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah, it does make you take some damage on the, what would a lot of times be the ideal way to use this card, which would be like make a treasure at the end of their turn, untap, make another one for the double ramp. So you are going to take at least 2 damage to do that, but
I think I'm still fine with that.
Yeah, I am too.
And I feel like a lot of times you'll just want the single ramp where it's just like play this on 2, turn 3, play a 4-drop, turn 4, play a 5-drop, fixing all of the, all that stuff. And then every time after that, once you find your payoffs for treasures, like the things that make creatures or the things that deal damage, you can just make them each turn, sack them accordingly. I think this is still in the neighborhood of a 3/5 for me.
Yeah, I think that's right. You do want to have the payoffs, I think. But it's still going to be good in any deck just because it'll ramp you and fix you.
Yeah, it's really good in the deck that has the payoffs, but I'm happy to run this in any deck that can just because of the fixing possibilities. All right, we have a Body Dropper, another 2-mana 2/2. This one's only a common, unlike the last one, which was rare. We have a Devil Warrior. When you sacrifice another creature, put a +1/+1 counter onto Body Dropper. Remember, this is the color archetype or color pair that has the most sacrifice mechanic options. And then you can also pay 2 to sacrifice another creature. Body Dropper gains Menace until end of turn, which automatically gives him the +1/+1 counter as well. This seems pretty solid for a common.
Yeah, it's a good card. Black-Red definitely had the sacrifice theme. What it didn't really have was tokens to sacrifice. It did have some, cheap creatures that you don't mind sacrificing for sure, like Expendable Lackey, or the Ravenous Rats, type card. But there's not necessarily a ton of fodder built into Black-Red at this point.
Agreed. But I like that a lot of the creatures, they kind of create their own fodder. So for example, my preview card had the Casualty 2, create another body. So you're basically upgrading. So this is going to get just a fringe trigger from that, well, you don't actually lose a creature in the process, and then you can continue to kind of repeat that process. So sometimes, you'll be able to do multiple casualty triggers, hitting this guy multiple times, but never actually being down a creature, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think this is a very good card if you have that sort of incidental sacrifice where this is just, or you have that sacrifice and this is just an incidental benefit.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how I play this. I don't think this is a build around. It's not quite powerful enough for me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
This is a 3?
Yeah, I do think that it loses a little bit, right? Because it's the 2-mana 2/2. You think of the bear, but it's a 2/2 that's a 2-drop that's hard to play on too, which is always a little bit of a ding on these 2-mana gold cards. But
yeah,
still a good card.
There's enough of the dual lands and everything in the set to where I don't think I necessarily need to ding it for that. I don't think it's particularly difficult. I'm more hesitant to run double color spells, like 2 reds, than I am like 1 and 1. For some reason, I'm just happier with those because I'm more likely to keep cards like that. Hands that have double red are far more likely to get mulliganed for me. So
yeah, I think the fact that a lot of the fixing, there are some good lands, but a lot of the fixing in the set is tied up in treasures. Means you're not going to be able to use them on a 2-drop on turn 2.
Yeah.
So it's going to delay it, but still a very good card, especially for a common.
Brazen Upstart, we have one of the Brokers cards. This is a 3-mana 4/2 with Vigilance. When it dies, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them, put that into your hand, put the rest onto the bottom of your library in a random order. Okay, so it kind of replaces itself. It's a 4/2 for 3 mana, which is about right for what we tend to see, but this is difficult to cast. It's not a super relevant creature type, but again, it replaces itself, so I think it's a fine uncommon.
Yeah, this is why I'm not trying to call these things by their house names, because I'm going to get them wrong every time. I'm just calling this Naya. The Capenna deck in Naya is actually exactly what is the deck. Obviously this is those colors, but it fits perfectly. The deck's going to be full of creatures. The only risk is if you're running the version that has a lot of like token makers that aren't creatures to hit with this. In which case, the 2 toughness is unfortunate, but a reasonable beater that can also then trade up on defense is nice.
Yeah, this is also the shield archetype colors, right? So a 4/2 is very good.
Bant is the shield archetype.
White, green in general have like a lot of shield stuff, right?
Yeah, I think green white is really the citizens. Blue white is mostly where the shield counters live.
I thought the green had some of it, but
it's got a little bit because of these Capenna stuff. But I think that's more focused on the blue white portion of the brokers decks.
I see. So green has a little bit of shields and white has a fair amount of shields. So point being is just like a 4/2 is a pretty reasonable target for shields. So you could have some synergy there as well. I think it's like a 2/5, maybe a 2. I'm not in love with the mana cost.
Yeah, I like it as a 2/5.
Broker's Ascendancy. We have a 3-color enchantment that says, the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control and a loyalty counter on each planeswalker you control. Wow, that's going to get out of hand real quick.
Yeah. Counters are what, this sort of, I was going to say color pair, but color trio is kind of what it wants to be doing.
They have a fair amount of citizen tokens that get pooped out. They've got shields, which makes the counters pretty difficult to deal with. I mean, you do need kind of a maximum amount of creatures in the deck for me to be wanting to run this. If this is like, 9 creature control, probably not going to make the cut. But if this is, 15 creature deck, this is going to be tough to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, the downsides to this card are its mana cost. It doesn't really do anything to turn you play it. At the end step it does, but it doesn't help you in that first combat. And you need to have critical mass of creatures. If you have those 3 things, this card is amazing.
Yeah. Rating-wise, what are you thinking?
I think it's a 3/5. It needs a little bit of work. The mana cost is tough, but
I think
it can't, and it takes some time.
It's a 3/5, but it's got some upside, and I'm close to just giving it that upside as a 4 because the deck, the colors just match so much what that deck is trying to do that I don't think that finding the synergy, finding the maximum number of creatures is going to be tough. But we'll give it a 3/5 for now. I'll let you take the charms.
Broker's Charm, green, white, and a blue. For an instant, choose one. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls, or destroy target enchantment, or draw 2 cards. So this is what charms do, right? 3 different effects. You get to pick one. It's the way it's been forever. I'll go back to the guild charms and even back further to like Mirage and Visions when you had single color charms that had 3 options.
And it's very flexible. Draw 2 cards being an option, a removal being an option, an enchantment is an option. I mean, I would prefer it to be an artifact, but it doesn't make sense within those colors. So I think this is a solid charm. Removal/draw whenever you need it seems pretty solid.
Yeah, charms type cards, especially when you're spending 3 colors, like I want 2 of the 3 things to be pretty commonly relevant. And this hits that, right? You've got the fight, you've got draw, and then every once in a while, the free enchantment removal is going to be nice.
Wholeheartedly agree. All right, score-wise, I think 3/5?
I think it's a 3/5. It's just so flexible.
All right, we have the Capenna Ascendancy. This is another one of the 3-color enchantments. We're going to see the full cycle of these. This is at the beginning of your upkeep. Look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature or planeswalker card, you may reveal it, put it into your hand. If you don't put that card into your hand, you may put it at the bottom of your library. So if it's a land, you could just pitch it. I like this a lot less.
How much? What would you pay for just at the beginning of your upkeep scry one? Like every upkeep, what is that worth?
I don't know. It's worth something. I just don't know if I want it on a vanilla thing that doesn't do anything else.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, this is obviously
a creature. I want that onto a small vehicle. Even if it, like, whatever it is kind of incidental, I would still.
Yeah. This is obviously better than that, right? Because you do often get to draw a card, in limited. You probably have you probably have 35% of your deck as creatures, give or take, 14 out of 40 in that range, 12 out of 40. So every three turns you get to draw a card.
Yeah, the other part of that too is that it's not just drawing you the creatures, it's getting rid of the lands late game, which is pretty relevant, which I consider that to be a card advantage.
Yeah, that's the part I meant with the scry one each turn. I mean, I like this card. I
like it less than the other Ascendancy, but I think we're still playing this. It's just less snowbally. It's gonna. I don't know if this is gonna win the game as often because it doesn't. It will win games, but it's so much slower that like your opponent can, I think, get out of it a lot more.
I think it's a little different. It's just very different, right? This can win games on an empty board. Where the other one can't, but vice versa, that one will win games on the stall board, where this one will have trouble with them.
Yeah. I think the other one's also more likely to help you if you're behind. This one is kind of not. It also triggers on upkeep instead of end step like the other one. So like you're, much slower there as well. I like it. I'm not saying we're not running this. I just don't think I like it as much. Yeah, this like a 3.
Yeah, I think I have it right at the same spot as the Broker's Ascendancy.
Okay, yeah, I'm a little lower on it. Capenna Charm, I'll let you take this.
Yep, another red, green, white Naya spell. Instant, choose one. Capenna Charm deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn. Create 2 1/1 green and white citizen creature tokens. I like this one less than the last charm. I still think it's good. The removal portion of it is worse because you need more help to make it work.
Yep.
And both the first and second abilities kind of feel like they would be cast on the same type of boards. A lot of times, where you need to be wide to get a good value out of either the first or two. You can get some value out of them with a smaller board. And then making 2 tokens is good. Especially relevant tokens.
Same type of board, but not the same type of board state. Like, you know what I mean? You don't necessarily want to overrun your opponent when you are like at this weird board stall. You want to do that to finish off, to get the, when you're already ahead. So I feel like the removal feels board stall or behind, and then the other one feels like you're ahead. I like this one overall less, but I think the 3 modes are more relevant and very flexible. So I think this is like, for me, possibly still a 3-5, just because the flexibility I think is there. But I agree, I like it less.
Yeah, I think I'm probably at a 3 on this.
Yeah, still pretty close.
Still good, yeah.
It feels synergistic for what Cabretti wants to be doing, so I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. Celestial Regulator, we have a 2/3 flyer for 3 mana. It's an Angel Advisor, some Angel synergy here, in the format that is. When it enters the battlefield, choose target creature you don't control and tap it. If you control a creature with a counter on it, the chosen creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. Okay. Maybe not super relevant tap, depending if you're not attacking and stuff, but still, it's a 3 mana 2/3 flyer. This is getting played.
Yeah, we'll play 3 mana 2/2 flyers. Now, granted, they usually only cost 1 color.
Yeah.
So, you get the point of toughness for it being a little harder to cast and goes in less decks. But the ability's nice. It's not, like you said, it's not always going to be relevant, but sometimes it's going to be very important.
I don't know if these colors are going to have most, like if this is the Obscura deck, then I don't think the counters are going to happen very often. If this is the Bant deck, I should just leave that picture up is what I should do.
So I'm just going to keep calling them Bant and Naya. And
There it is. You should just put this little guy in the corner somewhere. If it's the Obscura deck, I feel like then you're not going to get a ton of value out of it. If it's the Broker's deck, then I think you're going to get to tap down a creature and get to be a lot more aggressive.
I think the aggressive part, I definitely agree with you on the Broker side. Obscura, you are going to have the blue-white portion for shield counters, and you're going to have Connive generating some counters as the signature mechanic in Obscura.
Yeah, I think, do we give this a 3-5, or is this just a 3?
No, I think it's a 3.
Yeah, I think if you are in the thing that can make the counter happen with any regularity, if you're getting to tap a thing down for 2 turns and get into a racing situation that way, sometimes the tempo of that swing is pretty substantial. I would be willing to give this a boost to a 3-5.
Yeah, I think if any, and again, we'll have to see how it plays out. I think if any of those decks looked to me like they were going to be more aggressive, I would agree with that. I feel like both of those decks are going to be on different levels of controlling.
Yeah, but the if you're going to be tapping it down, I like that it's not necessarily aggressive, but getting to tap down a creature for for their next combat step is super relevant to let your control deck stabilize and get the base built that you need to do. So yeah, I think that's still probably pretty good if you can get the counters on it. So I think it's a 3 with some upside. Ceremonial Groundbreaker, 3 mana equipment, another one. We've got a lot more artifacts than I expected in the set. Equip creature gets +2/+1 and has trample. Equip a citizen for 1 or equip anything for 3. Trample's pretty nice, and if you have a bunch of citizens, I think this is playable. If you don't have the citizens, I'm not interested in 3 for an equip.
Yep, that's exactly what I was saying. 3 cost and 3 equip for, 2/1 and trample's not nothing, but that's a lot.
Yeah, if you're equipping it for 1, I like it.
Yeah, if you're able to pay 4 mana for it and then get it a second time for 1 more and 1 more, sure. But yeah, I don't want to play this without a critical mass of citizens.
Agreed. I'm going to give it a 2, and then we'll say specifically that it's either playable or not, depending on the citizen count, basically.
Agreed.
Civil Servant, a 2 mana 2/3. Whenever it attacks, you may tap another untapped citizen you control. If you do, it gets +1/+0 and gains lifelink until end of turn. That seems solid for a common.
Yeah, great for racing. And just a 2 mana 2/3 is a little above rate, albeit multicolor, so probably right around rate.
Yeah. What do you like this record score wise?
So I like it as around a 3. You do need the citizens. You do need the citizens, but there seem to be enough of them, especially in this color pair.
Agreed, and it's a pretty good rate on its own anyway, so even if you don't have a ton, I think it's still pretty solid.
Yeah, oh yeah, you're still playing as just any green-white deck.
We have Cormella, a 4-mana 2/4 with haste. It's a vampire rogue, and you can pay 1 to tap to add 3 colors. Spend this mana only to cast instants and sorcery spells. When Cormella dies, return up to 1 target instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, 4 mana for a 2/4 with haste is fine. You can ramp a bunch. It doesn't really fix because you have to cast all the mana colors to get it into play, but you know, you get to ramp into some sweet spells, and then it replaces itself eventually.
Yeah, it's weird. Like every part of this card, like individually feels underwhelming, but together it's probably good.
Yeah.
It's like awkward mana, a little expensive for the body. Ramping specifically for instants or sorceries is never that powerful unless there's a dedicated like blue-red spells deck, which there really isn't. Getting back, you know, you're in Grixis, so getting back probably a decent removal spell is nice.
Agreed. It still feels a little slow and clunky to me, so I think it's still probably like a 3.
Yeah, I think I'm probably even a little lower. I might have it as a 2/5, unless I have a pile of premium removal.
Yeah, I'm kind of assuming in these colors you do, but
yeah, the removal was kind of sketchy in this format. It seemed like.
I agree. The removal did not seem as good as it has been in the last few sets. I agree with that. All right, we'll give it a 2/5. It's also difficult to cast.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get to cast this early. We have a Corpse Appraiser, 3 mana for a 3/3 rogue. When Appraiser enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target creature card from a graveyard. If a card is put into exile this way, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may put 1 of those cards in your hand and the rest onto the bottom. Okay, replaces itself. It possibly removes a difficult card out of your opponent's deck, or graveyard, I mean. Seems fine, a little difficult to cast, but I am okay with that.
Yeah, and putting the other 2 cards into your graveyard is nice synergy with the 5 CMC, different CMC stuff.
Yes, agreed. This feels like a 3?
Yeah, 3 mana, 3/3 is good stats, although very hard to cast on turn 3.
Agreed. I think that if this was 2 colors and a colorless or something, I'd give this a 3/5 almost because of the ability to get one of the cards off the top.
Yeah, a card for 3 that replaces itself at that point, yeah.
Yeah, at this point, it's a little too hard to cast, so you're not going to be casting it until turn 5-ish, reliably.
At which point the 3/3 body might not be that relevant.
Mm-hmm. So we'll give it a solid 3. Corpse Explosion, a sorcery for 3 mana. As an additional cost to cast this, exile a creature card from your graveyard. Deals combat damage equal to the exiled card's power to each creature and each player. Huh. Okay.
Each creature and Planeswalker.
Planeswalker, that's... In my head, that's what I said, but I know that's not what I said. Yeah, this seems fine.
Yeah, it's a complicated board wrath.
It is, but it's in the colors that want to be sacrificing creatures anyway, so you're likely to have stuff. You're self-milling on some of these things.
Yeah, my biggest question on this is how big are the creatures in this deck? Like a lot of stuff you want to be sacrificing is 1/1s or 2/1s, and that might not be enough. But you are self-milling, like you said, so...
Well, a lot of times the thing you're sacrificing the 1/1s to make something else, and if they're not dealing with that, you probably don't need to board wipe.
Sure, yeah, you just... Yeah, and to be fair, the cards have not looked that big outside of green, really, in this set.
And
so
a
you
lot
may
of the
not
Blitz creatures were like 3/1s and stuff. I think exiling that is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is... I mean, I imagine I'm always playing this card, but it's not like a very exciting rare.
Yeah, like what do we think cards like maybe this is too far back, but like Anger of the Gods. You know, like 3 mana, deal 3 to everything. I know that had other exile connotations, but like those cards are always okay.
Yeah. I think it's like a 3/5
this
for
is
me.
This is probably gonna be 3 damage on average.
Probably.
Yeah, I think I got this at like a 3.
Yeah. in the ballpark of a 3 to a 3-5, depending on the deck, of course. The nice thing is that you can possibly just like outpace your opponents, where this is only like hurting them and not you. If you're up against like the Selesnya deck or whatever, that would be pretty neat. So I like that it's a little bit more flexible in that way. Crew Captain, 3 mana, 4/2 with haste. It has indestructible as long as it entered the battlefield this turn. So you get 1 free attack with this, basically.
Yep. Yeah. Then it's what the Riveteers, Jund stuff wants to be doing. Attack, attack, attack.
It's not exciting. It's difficult to cast. And it kind of does not a lot after it hits the first time. I think this is like a 2-5.
Yeah, I think it's a 2-5. I think they're gonna be if you have really good mana and can reliably cast this on 3, then it gets a little better. But
yeah. Darling of Masses, a 4 mana Selesnya card. Elf Citizen. Other citizens have +1/+0. I like the Lord ability. That seems sweet. When Darling of Masses attacks, create a 1/1 green and white citizen token. I like this a ton. It's also a 2/4, which attacks reasonably well.
yeah, this card's very good. I'm not gonna. I have a feeling I'm not gonna want to be getting this in combat a whole lot for that ability. But if you even make one thing, you're pretty far ahead.
Yeah, so getting it into combat. There's going to be a lot of situations, I think, where you're just like bouncing this off of something to make the 1/1, and you're like pretty happy with that. They can't attack back without leaving themselves open enough for you to make 1/1s, which just makes combat difficult, makes racing difficult for your opponents. I like this. Yeah, this is like a 3-5 for me. It's sort of a staple for this deck.
Yeah, I think these sort of tribal lords, especially when they're well supported, are always in that range as long as they're reasonably costed, which this is.
Disciplined Duelist, 3 mana human citizen with double strike. Enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it. Okay. Yeah, I think this is like fine.
Yeah, all the interaction between double strike, first strike, and shield counters is going to be really interesting this set. But yeah, I like this card. I want ways to pump it, I think, but I'm still probably going to play it even if I don't have them.
Agreed. It's a little tough to cast. I think this is like a 2-5 for me.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Endless Detour, 3 mana instant. The owner of target spell, non-land permanent, or card in a graveyard puts it on top or bottom of their library. Interesting. So you can put it on, so you can counter something on the stack, you can bounce a creature, you can get your own things out of your graveyard and put them back on top of your deck.
Yeah, or take theirs, I guess, and it's the owner. They would just put it on top if they were trying to reanimate something, so that's no good.
Yeah, I think this is flexible. It's difficult to cast, but very flexible.
Yeah, one interesting thing, I should have brought this up when we did blue, but I didn't think about it, was the fact that you have a cycle of Evolving Wild type lands that fetch and shuffle mean that sometimes these removal put on top or bottom actually remove the thing for good.
Yeah.
Which I always think is interesting. But yeah, this is just really flexible.
Difficult to cast, but I mean, I think this is. I love bounce spells, but man, this feels, even though it's a lot more flexible, it just feels tough to cast. So, I mean, I'm in that like 2-5 neighborhood.
Yeah, I it's flexible, but the flexibility it provides isn't that great in limited.
Yeah, I think it adds minor flexibility with a great cost of like the opportunities where you could blow them out. You're not going to get because you just don't have the third color, or you couldn't leave it open. You only had one green source and you had to use it to progress the board or whatever. So I think that that's tough. So I'm going to give it like a 2-5. I'll let you take this one.
Yeah. Evelyn the Covetous. It's a 5 mana 2/5. It costs 2 a black and then a Dimir hybrid and a Rakdos hybrid for a legendary vampire rogue. It has flash. Whenever it or another vampire enters battlefield under your control, exile the top card of each player's library with a collection counter on it. Once each turn, you may play a card from exile with a collection counter on it as if it was exiled by an ability you controlled, and you may spend mana as though it were any color to cast it.
That's a fair amount of card advantage.
Yeah. You immediately, it's flash, so you can play it like at the end of your turn, and you immediately can untap with a chance to play one of the cards from either the top of your deck or their deck.
Yep. And there's some scry mechanics in the deck, so like you could, time this when they scry something to the top, which is kind of tricky. Yeah, I mean, this is a good card, and the hybrid makes it much easier to cast. You could just cast this for black, red, or whatever.
Yeah, you can just black.
And at 2/5,
I mean, triple black's probably harder, but
2/5 for 5 mana, not a problem. Yeah, I think this card is good. I like this a lot.
Yeah, it needs to stay on the battlefield, but the 5 toughness helps a lot with that.
And the flash, right? Like if you get one card out of this, then you're happy.
Yep.
So
I got this as a 3/5.
I think I'm a little higher on it. I give this a 4.
Yeah. I think this card will just have super high variance. It definitely has the upside of a card like that. But there are also times when this will do nothing at all, especially if you have no other vampires.
Yeah, I think if this didn't have the flash, I'd be much lower on it. But like, given that you can flash block, you can use the flash to your advantage to make sure you get that extra card advantage the next turn. The flexibility and the cost, considering everything has been 1, 1, and 1, this is super easy to cast in comparison to everything else we're seeing. I'm happy to give it a little bump.
Yeah, this card just feels like one of those cards that would read whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, and it doesn't. So you only get that trigger once. Yeah. No, I agree. That would be extremely good. Which I'm sure is why it's not doing that.
5 mana, 2 cards plus a 2/5 with flash. That's a lot. I think that could easily win a game in the right spot. Not always, but it has the possibility. It's there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the downside is right. You only get it once, so you hit a land off each person's deck. And you get lands, but it's
in black. You could recur it. There's multiple things that get creatures out of graveyards too. Exotic Pets, a 3 mana instant, create 2 1/1 blue fish creature tokens with can't be blocked. Then for each kind of counter among creatures you control, put a counter of that kind on either of those tokens. So you can give it +1/+1, flying, flash, whatever, those things have. So I like this card. It's instant as well.
Yeah, I think I would kind of hate this card if it was an instant, but as an instant, I think it's good.
Yeah. 2 1/1s for 3 mana, that's fine. They can't be blocked, which is a bonus if your deck has like shield counters or +1/+1 counters, which white has some. We're pretty happy with this. I think this is like a 3 for me.
Yeah, I think it's a 3. You do want some sort of counters because 3 mana for 2/1/1. I guess 2/1/1 unblockables is fine.
Yeah, I think that's still something I'm playing. I'll let you take this one.
Falco Spara Pactweaver. It's 4 mana, 1 in Bant. Legendary creature, bird demon. It's a 3/3 flying trampler or flampler. Falco Spara Pactweaver enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast spells from the top of your library by removing a counter from a creature you control in addition to paying their other costs.
That's kind of neat. You automatically can get one thing, plus it's just a 4 mana 3/3 flying trampler on its own.
Yeah, I think this card is great. You obviously want other counters, but that's not specific to shield counters, which is nice.
And that's not hard in these colors in general.
Not hard at all in these colors. 4 mana 3/3 flampler is pretty good. And just even like simply the information from knowing the top card of your deck at all times is valuable.
Yeah. Is this a 4/5?
I think so. It's close. It doesn't let you play lands, although you probably would want to spend a counter on lands.
No, you might if you wanted to just get it off the top of your deck.
Yeah. Yeah, if you had a bunch of counters floating around.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a downside, but yeah, I think it's a 4/5.
Right. Fatal Grudge, 2 mana for a sorcery is additional cost to cast this. Sacrifice a non-land permanent. So you can sacrifice treasures with this. Each opponent chooses a permanent they control that shares a type with the sacrificed permanent and sacrifice it. It draws a card. Okay, well then you have to like sacrifice something more specific, like a creature or whatever, to make them sack their creature, but at least this replaces itself. Super situational, and you might not have an artifact to make them sack their vehicle or whatever it is that you need to kill. So it gets rid of a lot of the downside in that it replaces itself, but I'm not super happy with how restrictive this is.
Yeah, I think I need to have stuff I just don't care about sacrificing, whether it be an excess of treasures or some of the cheap ones that we don't mind seeing go to the graveyard.
This feels like a 2 to me. It's too situational.
Yeah.
Fleetfoot Dancer, 4 mana for a 4/4 trample lifelink haste. That's it. Just a bunch of keywords. I'm into this.
Yeah. Card's good. It sucks that the three keywords are missing, evasion. Even like a menace type, pseudo evasion, but this card's very good.
Yeah. It's a little hard to cast. If it was like 2 and 2 colors, then I'd give it a much better score, but I think this is probably a 3/5.
Yeah, I think if it was 2 and 2 colors, you would not get 3 keywords.
Yeah. It is hard to cast, though.
It is hard to cast. No argument there.
If it had flying, that would be, I think, more on target for me for the 3-color distribution there.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's disappointing that this doesn't have evasion.
Yeah. With the mana cost, I would kind of expect that it would have. So I think with those 3, we probably could have gotten away with 2 colors. Forge Boss. 2 colorless and 2 mana for a human warrior. It's a 3/4. Whenever you sacrifice 1 or more other creatures, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. This ability triggers only once a turn. That's fine. The cool thing is like this also includes when your opponent makes you sack things, which there are some of those options that we've seen, right?
Yeah, I mean, Fatal Grudge, right? We
Yeah.
just saw one that they could.
So this is just a 4 mana 3/4, which is on par stat-wise. It has some extra reach within the colors that have that sort of synergy. So you're going to get a lot of extra value out of this. And I think it's just, even just that incidental, you don't need to have a ton of self-sacrifice or synergy cards to just get 2 or 4 damage out of this each game and be more than happy with that. 2/5 with some upside?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think the card's fine. Anytime that's just you getting additional chip damage it's one of those that sometimes doesn't matter at all, but sometimes can be just the reach you need.
Yeah, agreed. Glamorous Outlaw, 3 colorless, blue, black, red for a vampire rogue. When it enters the battlefield, deal 2 damage to each opponent and scry 2. You can pay 2, you can exile it from your hand. Target land gains can tap for these things until Outlaw is cast from exile. You may cast this as long as it remains exiled. Oh, wow. So you can pay 2 to turn your land into a triome and then cast this later anyway? That's cool. I like that. That's fixing.
Yeah, card's a little overpriced, but it does a lot. Scry 2 is certainly relevant when it enters battlefield.
That's interesting. I love that you can just pitch it and then get it to fix all of your mana.
Yeah, I particularly like that you can use that ability at instant speed. Given that you're in the colors that a lot of time are trying to hold up removal or card draw or something like that.
And a 4/5 for 6 mana is not that outrageous. Like, it's only 1 mana off. And by the time you get to 6 mana, the 3 colors isn't going to be super difficult. This feels pretty good. Getting to get all of your colors right out of the gate.
Yeah, I think the card's pretty good. I think 6 mana for a 4/5 is pretty far away from playable, but it's got a lot of extra abilities here.
Yeah, we definitely play 4/5s for 5. that are often vanilla, just as like the top end. If this is the top end of your deck, I think that's okay.
Yeah, I think the card's okay.
What do you think rating wise?
I think it's like a 2.5.
I'm a bit higher on it. I was closer to 3.
I just want my 6 mana things to do more.
Fair. I just really like this 3-color fixing. It's so premium. You don't have to waste a card slot for your fixing. You just get your top end beaters to do that for you. Feels great to me.
Yeah. I think without that, this card's probably not playable. So,
Hostile Takeover, 5 mana for a sorcery. Up to 1 target creature has base power and toughness 1/1 until end of turn. Up to 1 other target creature has base power and toughness 4/4 until end of turn. Then Hostile Takeover deals 3 damage to each creature. Okay, so you bring their dragon down to a 1/1. You bring your 1/1 up to a 4/4, and then you blow up the board.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I for some reason just really love this card. Like everything about it.
I think it's fine. It's a bit situational. Oftentimes, if your opponent has too many big things, it just doesn't do enough. It's a lot of mana. 5 mana, very color specific for something that won't wipe the board.
Yeah, I mean, what did we... I forget already. What did we give Corpse Explosion?
3/5.
I mean, I think this is just as good as that, if not better. It costs more, but it's guaranteed the 3 damage it doesn't need. And it's guaranteed to protect one of your things if you have it.
But this can only do 4 damage. The other thing has the possibility to sometimes do more, possibly as well.
Yeah, but you at least know that this is going, assuming they have creatures, and otherwise, why would you cast it? This will kill something, right? Because you're always going to at least get that down to 1.
Yeah, 5 mana sorcery speed to kill a thing.
We do that all the time.
Not at rare.
No, but that doesn't matter for the card rating for limited. I mean, it might just be disappointing that it's a rare, but...
And not for this very restrictive mana cost.
Yeah, no, that would be a little worse than normal, but that's like that's the absolute low end of the card. It is still situational, right? It's not a pure board wrath, and it's not easy to cast.
Yeah,
but
I think for this mana cost, I am a lot less interested in this card. It's still playable, certainly, but I'm not into it.
Yeah, I'm always playing this card over Corpse Explosion. I mean, again, assuming I'm in the color, of course.
I think I'm not. Hostile Takeover. I think I'm going to give this a 3. I'm playing it, but I am hesitant.
Yeah, I've got it at 3.5, leaning higher, whereas Corpse Explosion, I was 3.5, leaning lower.
I see. All right, we have a 3 mana sorcery. Deals 3 damage to each non-token creature. In colors that have a fair amount of tokens, maybe sorcery speed that maybe doesn't kill a bunch of stuff. What are you thinking about this card?
It's interesting that we get another 3 damage to everything, or close to everything.
Yeah, 4 toughness creatures looking better and better by the minute here.
Yeah. This card's fine. The non-token is really nice in these colors. Yeah, I mean, it's awkward to cast, but you can play this on... You don't want to play this on turn 3 most of the time anyway, so...
This is a 3 for me. I feel like a lot of the things you want to kill that die to 3 damage are going to be tokens, so it's going to remove a lot of value out of this card. Probably still running it, but I don't think it's anything special.
I mean, I don't expect to see many tokens outside of this deck. Some fish, but outside of that, the few fish cards and then citizens, you're seeing no tokens out of Grixis really, or less out of Jund.
I mean, Grixis makes a lot of casualty make tokens, right? There's some of those casualty to make a 4/3.
Yeah, you have that card.
Devil tokens.
which I think was only on Planeswalker.
Devil tokens?
Were there devil tokens outside of?
I think there was like multiple things that did devil tokens, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Maybe I'm just misremembering that then.
And I think you're going to see a lot more citizen tokens in not just brokers. You'll see them in the other two overlapping colors. I think you're going to miss a lot here.
Yeah, that's interesting. I see that as like pure upside, not downside. Not pure upside, but I see it as more upside than downside. Let me rephrase that.
Depends on the board state.
Oh, of course. But in those colors, I think I'm more likely to won't be happy that I'm not killing my own things.
All right, moving on, guys. We have Jetmir's Fixer, a 2-mana 2/2 for a mountain and a forest. You get a cat warrior, and for another mountain and forest, it can get +1/+1 till end of turn. If mana from treasure was spent to activate, you put a +1/+1 counter on it instead. So, these are the two color pairs that want treasures, so there won't be a lot of, leaning in various directions. I think that this is a bear with some pretty solid upside.
Yeah, I think the card's good. It's got the typical downside of being tough to cast on 2, but you're fine playing this later.
Yeah, I think this is a 2/5 with some solid upside. I think if I'm in the Gruul colors pretty heavy, then I'm happy to play this at like a 3, but in any deck, I think it's probably a 2/5.
Yep, agreed.
All right. Jetmir, Nexus of Revels. We have a 4-mana legendary cat demon. A lot of interesting creature types in the set. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have vigilance as long as you control 3 or more creatures. Creatures you control also get +1/+0 and have trample as long as you control 6 or more creatures. And creatures you control also get +1/+0 and have double strike if you have 9 or more creatures. I like that, it says goes to 9 on a cat because it's a cat and they have 9 lives. That's cute. It's a lot of things. You're not realistically going to get to the double strike very often, but if you do, holy Jiminy Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get to the 3 pretty often. And even still, it's a 4-mana 5/4, so that's fine.
Yeah, I think this is like a 4.
Yeah, I agree.
If they can't kill it, it's going to win some games. And it's pretty big and aggressive on its own. Genie Phase, Jetmir's second. We have a very flexible mana cost for a 3/3 elf druid for 3 mana. If you would create 1 or more tokens, you may instead create that many tokens that are either 2/2 green cats or 3/1 dogs with vigilance instead. Upgrade all your soldier, human citizens, upgrade possibly your demons. Plus you get to make dog tokens, which is cool.
Yeah, this card's good. Just find X1s to be awkward things to have vigilance on because they tend to die in combat a lot. But if you're upgrading a 1/1 to a 3/1, sure.
Which most of the tokens are, they feel like 1/1s, so it's just going to be a straight upgrade.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's create 1 or more tokens, not creature tokens, so you can turn treasures into these.
Yep. That's pretty nuts.
Yeah, I think this card's great.
Yeah, and it's in both of the colors that really do make a fair amount of treasures. So and it's the mana cost is really flexible. It's basically like green, 2 colorless and a green in most decks.
Yeah.
So this is just a 3/3 for 3 with massive upside. This feels like a 4 to me.
Agreed.
All right. The Magpie. Lagrella the Magpie, a 3-mana 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, exile any number of other target creatures controlled by different players until Lagrella leaves the battlefield. When an exiled card enters the battlefield under your control this way, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Okay, so you can exile a card of theirs and a card of yours. When this dies, they both get +1/+1s, but you're removing like their dragon and you're removing like your little thing or whatever, and then you can just use it as a temporary O-ring.
Yeah, I mean, only your thing gets the counters.
Oh, I thought it was both things. When an exiled creature enters the battlefield under your control. Okay, yeah, then that's way better than I thought. Yeah, you should get rid of their dragon and upgrade your shit.
Yeah, I mean this card wins the award so far for most confusing rules text because there's been a million questions on how this card works. The way you said it was exactly how it worked on exiling up to one of something they have and something you have.
Yeah. People keep saying that that's really confusing, but when I read it the first time, it didn't seem confusing to me at all. I did miss the your control bit, but I always miss something when there's that wall of text that big, so that's to be expected from me at least. This feels good. I like this. What do you think in score-wise?
It's like a 3-5.
Great. I also have it a 3-5. A little tough to cast, but I don't think you necessarily want to cast that on 3 anyway, so I'm happy with that. Lord Xander, we have a 7-mana Vampire Demon Noble that says when it enters the battlefield, target opponent discards half the cards in their hand rounded down. By the time you get to 7 mana, they're probably not going to have a ton of cards anyway. When it attacks, defending player mills half their library rounded down. Okay, that could get scary. When it dies, target opponent sacrifices half the non-land permanents they control rounded down. Oh! Let's hope you have some exile spells.
Yeah. Card does a lot. It's expensive though, and it should do a lot for being a 7-mana 6/6 and 3 colors. I do agree the first 2 parts of this probably aren't that relevant.
I mean, the middle one could be. It prevents them from just chumping like it forever with their like little 1/1s, right? It forces them to have to deal with this and do the death trigger. Like if you're playing against something that doesn't have an exile effect, which there just aren't that many running about, some decks just won't have easy access to it. So I would hate to be in a situation where they're pumping out a ton of tokens and then I just can't attack them because they're wider than I am and they just chump it for 1. At least this middle clause really prevents that from happening. It means they need to deal with it in some way.
Yeah, agreed. It's interesting that the last ability obviously is the most powerful, but there are definitely scenarios also where that doesn't even do anything, right? Like if this is your big creature and they like trade up, say they 2-for-1 with it, and they've got 1 creature left, they as their only non-land permanent, they sacrifice nothing.
Yeah.
And they might have tokens to like treasure tokens to sacrifice. That being said, that's still a very solid ability.
Could be. It says all non-land permanents, so they could have like lockdown spells on your things. There's, a fair amount of stuff, including tokens. So I'm pretty happy with playing this all of the time. And with the ETB effect, I think that is pretty strong. I think this is game winning.
Yeah, I agree.
It's slow and awkward, and each clause individually is super situational, but each situation can certainly win a game. Is this a 4-5?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, Maestro's Ascendancy, 3-mana enchantment. Once during each of your turns, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from your graveyard by sacrificing a creature in addition to paying its other cost. The spell would be cast this way, exile it instead. We don't make a ton of tokens in these colors, so that makes it a little difficult to just get away with murder here, but I think we will not have enough premium spells to make this worth it in most decks.
Agreed. I think out of the Ascendancies we've seen so far, this is the worst one. And probably not going to be played.
Agreed. If I've got, like, for whatever reason, and these decks do exist, if I have, like, 6 premium removal spells plus some draw, great. We can run this. And this is the colors for it, in all fairness. 2 draw spells, couple of murders. I'm probably going to play this. But the average deck, I think, is not particularly interested. We'll call this a 2. Maestro's Charm, 3 mana for an instant. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. Put one of those cards from your into your hand and the rest into the graveyard. Each opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3, or it deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Okay. We're playing this for the removal, but I'm less impressed with the other 2 pips in comparison.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to be cast for 5 damage 80% of the time.
Yeah, I felt like the first charm we saw was like, 4, 1, 4, and then the second one was like 2/5, 2/5, 2/5, and this one feels like 1.5, 1.5, 4 kind of deal. Like the modes are just not as good.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I'd be surprised. They will come up. There'll be times when the other thing's relevant. This can just kill somebody at 3, but it's not going to come up very often.
3/5 though, 3 mana for 5 damage. So I think this is probably still 3/5.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
All right. Maestro, we have a 3 mana 1/4 with Death Touch and Haste. I can dig a 1/4 with Death Touch. That seems pretty sweet. When it attacks, if you don't control a devil token, create a tapped and attacking 1/1 devil creature token with, when this creature deals damage, ping for damage. So it prevents you from getting more than 1, but it is kind of cute that it just continues to poop them out. And you could attack with them, force them to either take the damage or block, and then you just make another one. So that's cool.
Yeah, a lot of times these things that create like tapped and attacking 1/1s just, feed them into getting slaughtered. But the fact that it's a devil means they need something with at least 3 toughness to not trade with it. So it makes it a little bit better.
Agreed. What do you think in score-wise?
It's like a 3.
Okay. I think I'm a little higher on it. That Death Touch seems really nice, and it has haste. So you just get to make a devil right away?
Yeah, I think the card's good. Yeah, I don't know.
We're pretty close. I think I will lean up to the 3/5 bracket. Masked Bandits, 6 mana for a Raccoon Rogue. There's a fair amount of raccoons in this set. We have a 6 mana 5/5 Vigilance and Menace. Pay 2, and you can do the same thing we did before with the other card that was rare, I think. And we can get it to fix and then filter and play it again later. So that's nice.
Yeah, the other one was also a common. This is a cycle.
Oh, was it? Some of the cycles do seem to have split rarities, I've noticed. Either that or they just seem very similar like a cycle and it happens to not be, but it did seem like that.
Yeah, there are definitely things like that look that way. But yeah, this is a 3 and a and 1 of each cycle, I believe.
Gotcha. I like this card. I think this is a 3.
Yeah. 5/5 Vigilance. Vigilance and Menace is a nice combo. Yeah, I like this card. 3 seems about right.
Meeting of the 5. We have a 3 and Wooburg. Exile the top 10 cards of your library. You may cast spells exactly 3 colors from among them this turn. With exactly 3 colors, add blank to your mana pool. Spend this mana to cast exactly 3 colors.
Do we have a 0 or negative rating?
I'm like reading this and I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, this is like the worst Mythic ever printed.
Okay, we got a 1.
It's just awful. Or at least the worst like headline story spotlight type card. That does absolutely nothing.
Metropolis Angel. We have a 4 mana 3/1 Angel Soldier with flying. It says when you attack with 1 or more creatures with counters on them, draw a card. Ooh, hello. That seems great.
Yeah, what's really nice about that in this set is, sometimes you can't attack with those creatures because you don't want to lose them, but a lot of times you'll have shield counters, so you can get a free attack.
Or if you can trade them and draw in the process, you feel pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I think this is a 3/5 with some good upside if you have a lot of counters.
Yeah, I think I'm a little lower. I think I've got it as a 3 with the same upside.
Interesting. I am about a half a point higher. On a lot of these multicolor cards, actually. Mr. Orfeo the Boulder. We have 4 mana for a legendary Rhino Warrior. When you attack, double target creature's power until end of turn. So 4 mana attacks is a 4/4. Can double something else if it's bigger. I'm not in love with the ability.
It doesn't have to attack, which is nice.
Yes.
A lot of times you have to get these abilities, you have to send it into the red zone and might just lose it and only get it once. But this can just sit there and throw your blitz creatures that you're going to sacrifice at the end of the turn anyway. Turn your 3/1s into 6/1s.
True.
So I think this is pretty good.
Yeah. I'm not in love with it, but I definitely think, this is not getting cut from any of these decks.
Yeah. I think this, I don't know, I've got this as like a 3/5.
Okay, yeah, I'm on board with a 3/5 actually. Yeah. If your creature deck is a little heavy, then you're going to get a ton of value out of this. All right, we have a 3-mana Obscura mana base 2/1 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose an artifact, instant, sorcery from them and exile that card. That's enough things that you might hit something. The enchantment is not likely, or it's an artifact. Now that's reasonably likely. There's a lot of equipment and vehicles in the set, so I'm okay with this.
Yeah, I mean, this is an ability I don't like on a card or as a spell.
Yes,
tacked onto a
creature.
Slightly tough to overcosted flyer. Just it's tough to cast. That's fine. That's worth it.
Yeah, I think this is like a 3/5. I'm pretty happy to get the knowledge.
Yeah, to keep going back and forth on half points. I'm a little lower again. I think I'm at a 3 just because of how hard it is to cast. And late game, it doesn't scale particularly well since they're going to be empty-handed.
Yeah,
it is a flyer though, so it's not dead late.
Yeah, I actually was leaning a little bit down. I ended up going a bit higher only because it says instant or sorcery, and I do like those longer than I tend to for exile target creature card, because they're a lot less likely to dumpster their hand quite as quickly with their combat tricks and their removal spells. So this kind of forces the issue. And there does seem to be a ton of sorceries as well.
People play combat tricks?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Learn something new every day.
And also, it's a slower format, so you're a lot more likely to get value out of this for much longer in the game as well.
That's true.
So that's why I ended up leaning up, but I agree. I'm in that 3 to 3/5 range. Up Nixilis, doing big Planeswalker things. We have a 3 loyalty, 3-mana Planeswalker with Casualty X. The copy isn't legendary and has a starting loyalty of X. Okay, so you get 2 Planeswalkers?
Yep.
And you can +1. Each opponent loses 2 life unless they discard a card. If you control a demon or devil, you gain 2 life. And then you can -2. You can get a red devil creature token with this creature deals 1 damage. -7, you can target player draws 7 and loses 7. That's a lot of things. So you can casualty this for a 1/1 token, and then just start pumping it up, right? Make your opponent lose 2 life, and then you can -2 to make the devil with the other one, and then you gain the 2 life with the token. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. No, this card is. I mean, there's a reason this card is the base version of this card is pre-ordering for $35 on Coolstuff.
Yeah. It's slow power, but it does feel like a lot of power. And because you're getting, if this didn't make a copy of itself, I would think that this is actually a little bit low impact. But because you're getting 2 of them and getting to make 1/1s plus drain, it's quite a big swing. So I think this is a 5.
Yeah, it's a 5. It's slow, but it's also can be played on turn 3. So I don't mind Planeswalkers being a little slower when they're this cheap.
Yeah, I think if you don't have a thing to sacrifice, it's going to play closer to a 4. If you have a creature to sacrifice, it's going to play more to a 5.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Obscura Ascendancy, 3-mana enchantment that says whenever you cast a spell, if its mana value is equal to 1 plus the number of soul counters on this, put a soul counter on it and create a 2/2. So Spirit with Flying, as long as there are 5 or more soul counters on Obscura, spirits get +3/+3. Okay. So at first you have to play a 1-drop?
Yeah, you have to play a 1-drop after having played this.
Yeah, in order for it to trigger. And then you play a 2-drop.
Yeah, this is just bad.
Agreed. Definitely the worst of the bunch.
If you can get this chain rolling, sure, but that's going to be really difficult to do. You're not going to have that many 1s in your deck, and you really don't want to draw them after you've cast a 3-color enchantment.
Agreed. Yeah, this feels like a 1 to me.
Yeah, agreed.
Now, it is a 1 mana spell. It doesn't say 1 mana creature, so it's not like the 1-drop, right? So there's like the black 1 mana removal spell. There's like the white pump spell. Yeah, there's some things because it's not necessarily creature oriented. So we'll give it a little bit of the benefit of the doubt for that at least, but I still don't like it.
Yeah.
Because we're not typically playing like that 1 mana black removal spell on 1, right?
True. Yeah,
So,
it's just too specific.
It is, agreed. The Obscura Charm, however, let's see, choose 1. Return target multicolored permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Counter target instant or sorcery, and destroy target creature or planeswalker with mana value 3 or less.
Yeah, I think these are all useful, but all medium.
Agreed. I was hoping the Obscura one would be a little bit more impactful. The 3 or less on everything is kind of sad. Like, getting back the 3 mana creature is like just card even. You're getting your best 3-drop back, but doesn't feel great. The counter instant or sorcery is pretty specific for the mana cost for this difficult to cast counterspell. I'd want it to just be a counter.
Yeah, I mean, it does 3 different things that are all legitimately relevant, but none of them are game breaking.
Yeah, none of them are game breaking for the mana cost.
Yeah. I mean, that said, you're never cutting this card.
No, it's a 3/5.
Yeah.
And then it's a 3/5 because of the flexibility, but just plays like a 2/5. Right? Whichever mode you choose is going to be minorly impactful.
Yeah, but the fact that it's almost never useless.
Yeah. Agreed. Obscura Inspector, 4 mana for a Cephalid Wizard with Flash and Lifelink. Okay. When it enters the battlefield, it connives. When it connives this way, return up to 1 target spell to its owner's hand. So it's a bounce counter? Counter bounce? Is what we're doing this with?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess it also, you get the occasional corner case where they're countering your thing and you can just return your own spell to fizzle their counter and be able to recast yours later.
Yeah. Or if you really want your thing to resolve, if it's game winning, you just counter their counter, bounce their counter, and they can't recast it.
Yeah, if they can't recast it, yeah.
And then you just play around it from then on, and that seems okay.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes, if they've held open the mana and didn't progress the board to hold open a counter, and you play a thing and you can do this, then, although I will say if they're countering your spell and you have to play 4 more mana for this, you probably don't have it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is okay. The stats on its own aren't great, but
Yeah, exactly. It's okay. I mean, it
3?
does enough. Yeah, it does enough, but it's not amazing. 3 sounds good.
All right, we got Agnes the Dragon's Lash. We have a flexible 4 mana haster. That's a 3/3. Whenever a creature you control with haste attacks, create a tapped treasure token. Huh, that's kind of neat.
Yeah, I mean, all these, I'm just saying jund cards, Riveteers cards, a lot of them have haste on their own, and then you've got Blitz, which gives a bunch of things haste. So you're going to get a lot of triggers out of this, and you'll get at least one from itself.
Yeah. And honestly, a 3/3 seems reasonably statted in this format, so it's not just going to get bricked super easy, but it is 4 mana for a 3/3, which is a little tough. But it's easier to cast on the mana base. It's not one of the super restrictive color combinations, so that's nice. And treasures are great. There's a lot of payoffs for them, and this will synergize very well with the colors it wants to be in. And there are other things that just, like, say, sacrifice a token or create tokens, right? Like this could be played in the deck with the cat lady.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like this card. What do you think in score wise?
I think it's a 3. It's like a 3/5.
Okay. I think I was a little lower on it without the like synergies. Like if you're in the more Rakdos-y version, this feels more 3-like to me. But I could see it going up to a 3/5 in the right deck.
maybe I'm overrating them, but I'm kind of very scared of this Jund Haste deck. I feel like there's a lot of people are going to die out of nowhere.
4 mana is a lot, though.
Yeah, but I think in this deck, you'd almost rather have a 4 mana 3/3 haste than just a 3 mana 3/3 without haste. Because it's still attacking at the same turn, and you're wanting to play something else with haste on turn 3.
Yeah. I'm in the 3 range, but I could definitely see it get there, especially if you have any synergies. Parked Height Pegasus. This is a cool card. We have a 2 mana 2/1 flyer with flying and trample. When it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. If you had 2 or more creatures enter the battlefield under your control this turn. 2 or more. That's pretty specific, but there are a lot of token generators in these 2 colors.
Yeah, for this card to be really good, you're going to need to have things that make 2 creatures with 1 spell, or lots of cheap creatures to play multiples in a turn.
Even if you don't, I'm just happy to play a 2 mana 2/1 flyer.
Exactly. Yeah, it's still good. 2 mana 2/1. 2 power trampler is always kind of weird, but.
And I feel like you will get a trigger off of this. And once you do, if you're playing this on curve, it's not terribly hard to make that happen at some point. And then there could just be the synergy deck with all the tokens, which is in this color, where you're just getting this trigger more than once, and then you feel amazing.
Yeah, in the right deck, this feels great.
So it's like a 3/5 with a fair amount of upside.
I think there's a lot of upside. I don't think I have it as high on its base. I think I have it as like a 3.
Okay. Yeah, we're pretty close there.
Yeah.
All right. We have a 4 mana 3/4 that whenever you draw a card, target opponent loses 1 life, you gain a life. Great.
Yeah. I mean, this is what Obscura is doing. Conniving.
Gives a fair amount of reach. It's okay statted on its own. It's also a cephalid, so it just gets bonus points in my book.
I was going to say, like, it's a cephalid. What is that? Oh, that's right.
It's just cool. That's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, blue's a card drawing color. Black has some card draw. You've got Connive.
Yeah, I'm happy to run this in all my decks.
Card.
Rating wise?
It was like a 3/5.
I also have it as a 3/5. The drain is quite sick, especially when you're guaranteed. Unlike a lot of times you see this, it's like landfall or something where you're not guaranteed to trigger it every time. This is you're guaranteeing to trigger it every time plus, which is really neat.
Yeah, it's not your second card. It's not once per turn when you draw a card. It's every card you draw.
Rafine Scheming Seer, 3 mana for a 1/4 flying with ward 1. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature connives X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. Draw, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. Interesting. So
yeah,
it just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. It's going to filter. It's going to fix.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to get bigger, right? Something else can get bigger.
Yes, but because this is flying and ward, I figure like this is probably going to be your premium target to make bigger.
Yeah, I'm thinking like you may be in a scenario where you want to spread things out, or it might enable something to get an attack in that otherwise wouldn't be able to.
Yes. Yeah, if you want to attack with like your little guy into their bigger stuff, and you can put the counters on that. Assuming you want to discard the cards in your hand. So it's nice to have the flexibility, but I still think this is likely going to be the premium target for that.
It is most of the time, agreed.
So yeah, score-wise, this seems really solid to me.
Yeah, I think this card's a 4.
I also have it as a 4. Great. All right. Rakish Revelers, 5 mana. This is the common cycle. When it enters the battlefield, create a green and white citizen token. And then you can also have it fixed for the Naya colors. 5 mana for a 5/3. There's a lot of 3/1s and a lot of 3/2s. This trade's way worse than most of the others.
Yeah, you get a token with it, so it's 5 mana for 6/4 worth of stats.
Fair.
I think just because of what this deck is wanting to do, I think I like this a little more than the Grixis one. Probably about the same as the Jund one.
I like
It
it
triggers
less.
Alliance twice. Yeah, it triggers Alliance twice. It triggers the 2 creatures per turn thing we just saw. I mean, admittedly, that's a rare, but helps you go wide, which is exactly what the deck wants to do. It costs 1 less than the other 2. I don't think it's amazing, but I do like it at least more than the Grixis one.
I like this less than most of the others. I have it as a 3 still. I'm in love with this mana ability in this 3-color set, so I'm basically going to be playing these all the time.
Yeah, I think I'm right in the same area as you.
3 mana for a Streetwise Mentor. It's a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it, whenever you attack a player or planeswalker with 1 or more creatures with power 1 or less, draw a card. Interesting. I like this. It's flexible, easy to cast. It costs a little bit more for the mana cost, but it's getting a shield counter. This seems good. If you can draw cards off of this reasonably well, what do you think?
Yeah, so you need to be attacking with things that are almost certainly going to die.
Unless they have shield counters or have flying.
Yeah, flyers, it's great. It's great with the fish tokens. Yep. Yeah, I think this card's good. I think you want a critical mass of what we were just talking about in order for this card to be very good. But again, right, you get 1 trigger, and you're happy.
Yeah, agreed. I think you'll need a couple of flyers or fish, and then this will play insanely well. If you're only playing with a few citizens and nothing else, then it's going to play quite poorly. But I still think it's like probably a 3/5.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Great. All right, Riveteer's Ascendancy. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, you may return target creature card with lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Do this once a turn. Okay, this is like a 1/4. 4 is a little bit of an exaggeration, but like if you have the sacrifice deck, this is all you want to do in life, right?
If you have the sacrifice deck where you get a lot of triggers off of sacrificing things as opposed to just cards that you need to sacrifice for. But yeah, if you definitely have those triggers, then this is very good.
Even if you just have cards that want you to sacrifice for, which I don't exactly know how you phrased that, seemed a little weird, but you still are happy to just get a replacement creature, right?
I guess I mean like in terms of, you're playing a sacrifice deck because you have a lot of casualty, right? That requires you to sacrifice, but that you're not getting any benefit outside of that spell itself. I think in the deck where you're getting, like, we had the 2/2 that right at the beginning of this body dropper that gets a counter when you sacrifice another creature. Like, you have triggers like that is what I meant. I did not phrase that well.
So you're saying you don't want it if you have ones like that, but you do want it?
No, I think you don't. The other way around. I'm saying.
Why wouldn't you want to sack your creature to your casualty guy and then get a creature back and then cycle them?
Well, you can't right there. You're only getting smaller things back.
Yeah, but
so if you're sacrificing stuff you want to sacrifice, you're not getting anything back a lot of times.
Some of the times, but it allows you to start higher, right? So I'm okay to, instead of sacrificing, if I've got a 2/2 and a 3/3, instead of sacrificing the 2/2, I could sacrifice the 3/3, which is 1 stat less, but I get a whole card back in another 2/2, right? It lets you kind of shift up how you do those things for card advantage over time.
Yeah, I mean, like, you do sacrifice tokens, you get nothing.
Correct, but these are not necessarily, at least red-black is not a ton of tokens. Maybe the green has some, but mostly I think we're a little lighter on tokens in these colors. We were saying that the red-black was struggling for token generation for sacking, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I think this card is good. I think a lot of times you're just not going to get any real value out of this. What you have to sacrifice, you're either going to have to sacrifice something really good, or you're going to have to sacrifice your 2-drop and get nothing back.
That's interesting. I have this as like a 1 or a 3/5 in the specific sacrifice deck. I think that if I am looking to have casualty and or other cards that want to sack creatures, like the Body Dropper, I'm very happy to have just whatever vanilla creatures coming back. And there's also some like black 1-drops and things that actually do a thing when they're sacked, so that's pretty neat. Bringing those back multiple times would be good. Riveteer's Charm. We have a 3-mana instant. Choose one. Target opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker they control with the highest mana value among creatures. That's nice. That's not a clause we typically get in a sacrifice ability. And then exile up to the top 3 cards of your library until end of your next end step. You may play those. 3 cards, that's a lot. And then exile target player's graveyard. Okay, the first 2 of this feel great.
Yeah, 2 good abilities and one that maybe will come up 1 out of every 15 games or something.
Yeah, until the end of your next turn, you can get 3 cards. So good. This is one of my favorites so far, I think. It's pretty high up there.
Yeah, this one's very good. I think I've still got them kind of all in the same 3-5 range, though.
Yeah, this is the first one where I'm leaning towards a 4, but I still think it's a 3-5.
Yeah.
But I think this is tied for the top for me, probably.
Yeah, with the first one, the
I think so.
Broker's Charm.
Yep, the draw and all that.
Yep.
Cabaretti, we have a X red, green, white elf druid. It's a 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you may search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less. Put that onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Put it onto the battlefield. That's neat.
Yeah. So you're paying 3 mana for a 3/1, 4 mana for a 3/1, and a 1-drop.
Most likely, you're getting the value out of this at like 6 mana.
6 mana. Yeah, because you get anything. So that the nice thing is exactly what you want to cast it for. It's not like the top 7 or something like that. So exactly when you want to play this for what mana cost.
Yeah, if you ever just need a creature and you play this for 3, that's really tough to cast. You feel like shit, but it's just card advantage. It's just, X and 3, get the card you want and make a free 3/1, basically. It's fine. Yeah. It's expensive, but...
Yeah, well, the card's good.
3/5?
I think so, yeah.
I would give it more if it wasn't quite so expensive, but the thing that you're getting, the 3/1, for the tax of 3 mana is maybe not quite as good as I would like, but yeah, it's still card advantage. Yeah. If the games go long, this will be good.
You are in the treasure colors, which helps with that.
True. You could dump a lot more into X with Gruul. Maybe it is closer to a 4, but what do you think?
No, I think it's still where we had it. I think that helps, but it still involves putting a bunch of resources into it.
All right, a Scheming Fence, 2 mana for a 2/3 human citizen. When it enters the battlefield, you may choose a non-land permanent. Activated abilities of the chosen permanent can't be activated. Scheming Fence has all the activated abilities of the chosen permanent except for loyalty abilities. You may spend mana as though it were any color to activate those abilities. Great. You have an above rate creature. It's a relevant creature type. Not only do you remove their best abilities, you get them yourself. And there's a lot of create treasures for things. There's a lot more non-mana abilities in this set than normal, I think.
Yeah, I'm curious on why they had to put in the except for loyalty abilities, because this card wouldn't have any loyalty counters anyway to spend them. But that's just a kind of a weird aside. No, the card's good. Everything you said, above rate, locks down the most important thing they've got, ability-wise.
Maybe it was just easier to add that than have the question of, because you can stop the planeswalker, but then people are going to be confused as well.
Oh, and you could, and actually there's +1 abilities and zeros. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, +0, that would make sense.
Yeah. That was just dumb. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense then.
So just cleans it up regardless. I think this seems good. I think it's like a 3/5. It's not winning any games, but it's certainly never being cut. It feels like it has a pretty high upside.
Yeah, I think I've got it a little lower. I've got it like a 3 just because there are going to be times where they just don't have a relevant ability.
Fair.
But yeah, I think it's still very good. And you're not cutting it.
All right, we have a 4 mana 5/4. You may pay 2 rather than pay the spell's cost. Spend only treasures this way. Huh. That seems kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, this card's great. It's 4 mana 5/4 is good on its own, and sometimes you can use treasures to be able to easily double spell.
Yeah. This feels strong. What do we think score wise?
I think it's like a 3/5.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, sometimes you'll play like I've played a vanilla 5 mana 5/4. And I was not happy about it, but for 3 mana, you're starting to be a little bit happier about it. And if you can make some treasures, this has some big upside. If you don't have treasures, I think it's maybe closer to a 3. But yeah, this is a nice card.
I think it would be a 3 without that ability, but because of the ability, plus you're in the colors, they're going to make a ton of treasures.
Yeah, I meant more like if your deck just doesn't have the treasures, then it's going to play more like a 3.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
We have Shattered Seraph, a 7 mana angel rogue with flying. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. You can pay 2 to get the mana. It's a 4/4. Okay. Yep, I'm in. It's a little bit more expensive, but you're fixing, which I like, especially in these colors. You're going to want some extra help because you don't have any green or treasure generation to help get you any fixing in any other way. So that's going to make this card even more valuable, but it's more expensive, but it's also probably one of the best creatures you're going to get. 4/4 flyer.
It's really expensive, but it can end a game. You're in the colors where you're right, the fixing's more valuable, and also you can just pitch it to connive if you're really stuck on mana. Quantity as opposed to color. So you do have ways to get some value out of this, even if you're not going to get up to 7.
Yeah. Now, even if it didn't have the mana ability, I would still probably play this as a 1-of, but I'd be a lot less happy about it and rate it a lot less. But with the mana ability, and you just, sit on that, use it as fixing until you can eventually get to 7, which you usually do in limited, and this is going to be a longer format. I think this is still like a 3/5. I really like that mana ability.
Yeah, it's somewhere between a 3 and a 3/5 for me. It's just really expensive.
It is. I'm genuinely giving every card a 1 point bump because of the mana ability. I'm super high on it.
You rate that way higher than I do.
Yeah. I love fixing that doesn't cost you a card.
There's so much fixing in this set.
That's true. And this is one of them, and I still get a beater at the end of the day, and I love it. Snooping Newsy, a 2 mana 2/2 human rogue. When it enters the battlefield, mill 2 cards. As long as there are 5 or more cards among cards in your graveyard, mana value, blah, 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 gets +1/+1 and has lifelink. That's pretty neat and enables all of your other cards and becomes a 3/3 lifelinker for 2 mana later in the game. This seems sweet.
Yeah, nothing not to like about this.
2/5?
Yep.
I think it's got a big enough upside to get a half-point bump.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, I'll let you take this one.
Soul of Emancipation. It's a 7 mana, 4 and green, white, blue for a 5/7 avatar. When Soul of Emancipation enters a battlefield, destroy up to 3 other target non-land permanents. For each of those permanents, its controller makes a 3/3 white angel creature token with flying. Hello, Terastodon.
You just destroy whatever you want. You destroy your squirrels, make 3/3 angels. You destroy their dragons, make 3/3 angels.
Yeah. Now this removed the degenerate part of Terastodon where you just blow up all their lands.
Yeah.
But
it's playable.
Yeah, I mean this is even more likely to want to get your own things because the tokens are better since they fly.
Yeah, certainly. You're most likely just wanting to hit your own stuff. And in these colors, you certainly will be able to.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of destroying 3 citizens or 2 citizens in a 2/2 or something.
Yep. Pretty much.
Yeah. In which case you end up with 7 mana for a 5/7 plus 9/9 worth of flying.
or you're getting like their rare card, and then you're just trading it off with one of your angels and getting two of your citizens. Like I could see just getting a random 4/4 with this because you know you have the angels to box with it. So yeah, this feels great, and it's in a color that's got some treasure help. Green has some ramp, so that's fine. Rating wise, this has a pretty strong ETB. I like this card. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this card is like a 4/5.
Yeah, I have it as a 4/5 as well.
And just the fact that it's a huge body on its own, right?
Yeah.
Say the angels all trade off somehow, you still got a 5/7. You know what's fighting with that in this format? Not a lot.
Yeah, certainly true. 5 mana for a 4/4 cat citizen. When it enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls can't attack or block until your next turn, and then you can get the mana. 4/4 for 5 that does the thing. Feels a bit better.
Yeah. Its ability's kind of like pretty meh to me, but the cost to mana ratio is much better than the other cards.
Yeah, agreed. And then it's got that sweet mana ability. So I still think this is pretty good. What do you think in score-wise?
Yeah, it's like a 3.
I also probably like it as a 3.
Like if we went back and did this all at once, I would probably just put this entire cycle at 3.
Probably true. Stimulus package. This is the card I like. You can sacrifice treasure tokens to make 1/1 citizens, and when it enters the battlefield, it creates 2 treasures on its own. So if you need it, you can just play this and then play the treasures into something else, or you can sack them off one at a time to make 1/1s. So it can just automatically come into play with 2 1/1s for 4 mana, and then also turns your other treasures into a nice thing. So it's a split card. You got to have some treasures to make it happen, but it's like a 2/ big payoff, right? 3/5.
Yeah, I think I'm probably a little lower on this as on the first half of the split rating, just because I think this card is terrible without synergy. Like 4 mana for 2 1/1s is awful.
Yeah, but it also fixes, right? Like, so it helps you create your third color if you're mostly in Gruul, and I'm guessing there's going to be enough synergy just sporadically to where even if you don't have a deck for it, you're going to have some things that will pair up well. So I'm assuming that the deck has even, you know, a minor 1 or 2 other things that will create a treasure for you. And I like the fact that it will fix, and then the downside is the minimum that the 2 1/1s.
Yeah, it's a little weird in that the fewer treasure tokens you have, the less you want to feed them into this, because you probably want them to actually fix a ramp.
Agreed.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a split rating.
All right. Syndicate Infiltrator, a 4 mana 3/3 flyer. As long as there are 5 mana value in your graveyard, it gets +2/+2 and becomes a 4 mana 5/5 flyer. That seems good.
Yeah, I think this card's really, really good. 4 mana 3/3 flyer on its own is great, and then this just becomes a game winner.
Yeah,
I mean, it can win a game without the bump, but with it, it certainly can, and pretty quickly.
Yep, agreed. What do you think in score-wise?
It's like a 3/5. I almost want to give it a 4.
I was literally on the exact same marker, 3/5 leaning towards a 4. It depends on the synergy of the rest of your deck if you're going to be getting a lot of other cards into your graveyard. Yeah, I think I'll give it a 3/5 and then mention the upside if you have like some of those cards that put some stuff into your deck, or if you've got some connive where you can kind of control it a little bit, then you feel a little better. But yeah, if this is just a 4 mana 3/3 flyer, then this is a 3/5 on its own. Tainted Indulgence, 2 mana, draw 2 cards, then discard a card unless there are 5 or more cards among mana values in your graveyard. Great. It enables all of the other ones of the same mechanic, and if you already enabled it late, then you just get 2 cards for 2 mana.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's like it's a hard to cast instant speed Tormenting Voice until you get that. But I mean, it's a little better because you get to draw the cards first. But
yeah,
I think this card's good. It's only going to be card advantage late game, probably mid to late game, but still fine to, you know, help enable that early game.
Yeah, so that's what the downside is that it's enabling the rest of them, which I like. it lets you just like strategically put your 1/1 in the yard or whatever it is, so that way you make sure you get the thing, or the land, because that's going to be kind of hard to put in the graveyard as well. If you can pitch an extra land, then you feel pretty happy about getting to that 5 CMC thing a lot faster. So I think this is still a good draw card. I think it's still probably a 3 for me, maybe a 2/5.
Yeah, I think I've got this as a 2/5.
All right, I will let you take this one.
Tolu's Clever Conductor. It is a 3-mana 3/1 for blue, and then an Azorius hybrid and a Dimir hybrid. So could be mono blue, blue, white, black, blue, blue, black, any of those combinations for human rogue. When Tolu's Clever Conductor enters battlefield, it connives. Whenever you discard one or more cards, exile them from your graveyard. And then when Toulouse dies, put the cards exiled with it into their owner's hands.
That seems great.
Yeah, so presuming this card doesn't get exiled, this is 3-mana 3/1 draw card. At minimum. Because the connive, you get that discarded card back.
Yes. When this dies. So as long as this is not exiled, this...
Yes, as long as this doesn't get exiled.
This is the, ultimate payoff for connive deck.
Yeah.
And on its own, it's pretty good. It's a little overcosted at its base, but if you're getting rid of a card you can then draw, it's a 4/2 that trades, and you get that card back, and you got a card draw out of it. So yeah, that feels really good. This is like a 4.
Yeah, you get everything you discard. It doesn't just have to be from connive. So Tainted Indulgence, like we just saw, if you have to discard to that, if their opponents make you discard.
All right, Unleash the Inferno, 4 mana. Unleash the Inferno deals 7 damage to target creature or planeswalker. When it deals excess damage this way, destroy target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls with mana value less than or equal to the amount of excess damage.
Yeah, it's a kill spell that occasionally you can find a way to get, if in the right situation, get a 2-for-1 out of.
Yeah, there's a lot of vehicles. I feel like you might hit artifacts, or you could even hit a treasure.
Yeah, certainly on the treasure side. With the vehicles, you gotta, it becomes an interesting scenario, right? You might have the choice of killing one big thing or killing a small thing plus their vehicle.
Yeah. Although, the mana value for the vehicles are quite low. So it depends. Most of them are 4 CMC-ish. So, it might not be that big of a choice. So it might be really nice. But for the most part, I think you're going to hit a large creature and a treasure and be happy about it. What are you thinking score-wise? 7 damage is a lot for 4 mana, but it is difficult to cast.
Yeah, it's instant speed. I think this is just where we put all the good removal. I think it's a 4.
Okay. I'm on board with that. Void Rend, 3 mana for a... this spell can't be countered. Destroy target non-land permanent. Great. Hard to cast, but any non-land permanent sounds like a 4 to me. At instant speed?
Yep. Can't be countered. Not really relevant and limited, but sure, why not?
Someone's asking how much mana value is a token? 0. So if you have 1 excess damage, then you can go ahead and kill anything with 0 CMC. All right, we have second to last card here, 4 mana for a 5/4. It has Trample. It deals combat damage to a player. Look at the top cards of your library. Top card of your library. You may play a land card from the top of your library or cast spells with mana value less than or equal to the damage dealt from the top of your library without paying the mana cost. If you don't, put that card into your hand. So it just guarantees you a draw. That seems great.
Yeah, it's either a free spell or a card draw.
Yeah.
Or a free land.
Either way, you get a card, basically. It's draw 1. Sometimes you can choose to cast it.
Yep.
Great. This feels strong, like a 4/5?
Yeah, I mean, the Blitz ability is nice, too, because you can get in for 5 and almost certainly get a free spell off your deck. Plus then draw a card from the Blitz.
Yep. Well, most likely, once you've blitzed this in, you won't have enough mana to cast the spell off the top, so then it just goes to your hand, plus you get the draw for the Blitz itself.
You get to cast the spell for free. Without paying its mana cost.
Ooh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, this is a 4/5 to me.
Yep.
All right, we have a giant flying dragon. We have a demon dragon for 6 mana. It's a 6/6 flyer. At the beginning of your end step, if you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, This deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target and create 3 treasure tokens. Okay. Because it's at end step, that feels quite strong. You have to have a creature to sack, though. It might just die before you do anything with this.
Yeah, I'm very quickly scanning to find a card that has the reminder text on Blitz. The beginning of the next end step, so you can stack those triggers to sacrifice your Blitz card to this.
Okay, but that's not likely the turn that this comes in because it's 6 mana on its own. So
yeah,
if you don't get to untap with this, it doesn't really do much. So it kind of eliminates it from the 5 bracket, in my opinion.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I agreed.
So this is just straight 4/5 then?
Yeah.
All right, easy enough. All right, guys, that was the longest video yet. That is the end of the multicolor cards and the end of our set review. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys leave us a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts on the cards, and I look forward to seeing you guys for some gameplay. I will be posting it tomorrow, I'm sure, by the time you guys see this. So make sure you guys check out those drafts and sealeds. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.